I never imagined that my own son's wedding would become the worst day of my life. If you want to hear more stories like this one, subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from. My name is Monique. I'm 54 years old, and today was supposed to be one of the most special days of my life. My son Darnell's wedding. My only son, the boy I raised alone after his father abandoned us when he was just 10 years old. I remember like it was yesterday when Darnell asked me to be his best woman, since he didn't have a father to walk with him. "Mom, you're both father and mother to me," he said with those eyes shining with love. Those words meant everything to me. For 27 years, I had been his everything. His protector, his provider, his biggest supporter. I spent 3 hours getting ready today. 3 whole hours. I woke up at 5 a.m., my heart already racing with excitement and nerves. I made strong coffee, the kind that could wake the dead, and sat at my kitchen table planning every detail of my day. I had been dreaming about this moment for months, ever since Darnell announced his engagement to Keisha. I chose the navy blue dress I bought especially for this occasion. I spent almost half my salary on it, $300 that I had been saving for 6 months, putting away $20 here and there from my grocery money. But it was worth every penny. Darnell deserved to see his mother looking perfect on his wedding day. The dress was elegant, modest but beautiful, with delicate lace sleeves that I thought made me look sophisticated. I got my nails done on Friday at Donna Miss Loretta's salon, the same one I've been going to for 15 years. Miss Loretta has watched Darnell grow up, always asking about him every time I visit. "That boy is going to make you so proud, Monique," she always says while painting my nails. And she was right. Darnell became an engineer, got a good job, found a nice girl. Everything a mother could want. I even had discreet makeup done by Tasha, my neighbor's daughter who works in beauty. She came over at 7 a.m. carrying her big makeup kit, excited to help me look beautiful. "Donna Monique, you're going to be the most elegant mother of the groom ever," she said, while carefully applying foundation to my face. I wanted to be perfect for my boy. I wanted him to be proud of his mother when he saw me walking into that church. During these 27 years raising Darnell alone, I worked 2 jobs without complaining. Mornings at Donna Miss Charlene's clothing store downtown, where I folded clothes and helped customers for 8 hours. Then evenings cleaning offices in the business district, scrubbing floors and emptying trash cans until 11 p.m. I'd get home exhausted, my feet aching, my back sore. But I always asked Darnell how his school day went. Always. I never let him lack anything. English classes at the corner school cost me $50 a month. But I paid it because I knew it would help his future. Computer courses, always new school supplies at the beginning of each year, even a small allowance when I could afford it. And private college? Lord, I went into debt, took loans, worked extra hours. But I managed to pay for all 4 years of his civil engineering degree. Everything I never had, I managed to give him. He was my pride, my reason for living, my life project. When Darnell introduced me to Keisha 2 years ago at a Sunday barbecue at my sister Auntie Denise's house, I tried to be welcoming. She was an educated girl, pretty, with a business degree, well-structured family. Her father had an accounting firm. Her mother was a retired teacher. They lived in a nice house in the suburbs, had 2 cars, took family vacations. Everything I had dreamed of giving Darnell but couldn't. I admit it was difficult at first to share my son's attention, seeing him cancel our Sunday lunches to stay with her. We used to spend Sundays together, just the 2 of us, cooking his favorite meal and watching old movies on TV. But suddenly, he was always busy with Keisha. "Sorry, Mom. Keisha and I are going to her parents' house," became his usual excuse. But I thought it was normal. that every mother goes through this when her son finds a serious girlfriend. The wedding preparations were tense, very tense. Keisha wanted everything her way, and Darnell always agreed with everything she said. I would suggest some things carefully, trying to be helpful. After all, I knew my son's tastes better than anyone. I knew he loved chocolate cake instead of vanilla, preferred simple decorations over fancy ones, and hated white flowers because they reminded him of funerals. But it seemed like my opinions weren't welcome. "Let them handle it, Mom," Darnell always said when I tried to give my opinion about the decoration or menu. You know how these wedding things make women nervous. I would swallow my pride, force a smile, and pretend it didn't bother me to see my son being controlled by someone else. But deep down, it hurt. After all these years of making every decision together, suddenly, my input didn't matter. This morning I woke up at 5 a.m., my stomach full of butterflies. I had strong coffee, called my sister, Auntie Denise, to confirm she'd be there for moral support, packed my purse with tissues because I knew I'd cry with emotion, and left home 2 hours early. I wanted to arrive early, greet the relatives I hadn't seen in months, take photos with Darnell before the ceremony, live every minute of that special day. I had been looking forward to this for so long. I arrived at the ceremony location. Beautiful St. Joseph's Church in the city's upscale neighborhood that Keisha's family had chosen. Exactly 1 hour early. The church was gorgeous, with tall white columns and stained glass windows that caught the morning sunlight beautifully. I parked my old but well-maintained blue car on the side street and walked toward the main entrance, already imagining Darnell's smile when he saw me. My heart was beating fast with emotion and pride. I was wearing my best shoes, the black ones with small heels that I only wore to special occasions. I had practiced walking in them all week to make sure I wouldn't stumble. My hair was perfectly styled, my makeup subtle but elegant. I felt beautiful, confident, ready to celebrate my son's happiness. That's when I saw it and my world completely collapsed. My photo, my own photograph enlarged on regular paper, glued right in the center of the church's main door with clear tape, and underneath in bold red marker letters, "Presents not allowed, family." I felt like they had ripped my heart out of my chest with their bare hands. My legs trembled, my vision blurred. The air simply disappeared from my lungs. For a moment, I thought it was a horrible nightmare, that I was going to wake up in a cold sweat in my bed and laugh at all this craziness. But it wasn't. It was terrifyingly real. My own photo preventing me from entering my only son's wedding, the boy I raised with so much love and sacrifice. People started arriving for the ceremony and looked at me with a mixture of pity and morbid curiosity. Whispers, pointing fingers, muffled giggles. "Look there! That's the groom's mother," I heard someone comment. "What an embarrassing situation," said another voice. The humiliation burned like fire on my skin. Every look was a stab to my dignity. I stood there frozen, unable to move, unable to process what was happening. One of Keisha's cousins, in a hot pink dress with a fake smile, approached me with false sympathy. "Oh, Monique, what an embarrassing situation indeed. You really can't get in? What a shame, right?" Her tone of false concern made me even angrier. I could see the satisfaction in her eyes, like she was enjoying my humiliation. I took a deep breath, gathered all the dignity I had left in me. I lifted my chin and responded with the firmest voice I could manage. "No, I won't enter where I'm clearly not welcome." I turned my back on that church, on those hypocritical people, on 27 years of my life dedicated entirely to my son. I walked to my car with firm steps, and my head held high. But inside I was completely destroyed, humiliated, betrayed in the worst possible way. I arrived at my simple 2-bedroom apartment, the same one where Darnell grew up, where we spent nights studying for his exams. where we celebrated every achievement in his life. Now everything seemed empty, meaningless. I took off that blue dress I had chosen with so much care and put on an old pajama set. I sat in the living room armchair, the same one where Darnell used to throw himself to tell me about his school day. Photos of him were scattered around the living room. Baby Darnell in my arms, child Darnell in his school uniform with that proud smile. Darnell graduating from college with his engineering degree raised high. In all of them, I was beside him. Always me, in the difficult moments, in the victories, in the important decisions. I was always the one who was there. The silence of the house was deafening. Outside, my son was getting married, promising eternal love to another person. And I, who dedicated my entire life to him, was forbidden to witness that moment. The irony was too cruel to bear. 27 years of sacrifices, 27 years of putting his needs before mine, 27 years of working double shifts, saving every penny, going without so he could have everything he needed. And this was how it ended? With my photo on a church door like I was some kind of criminal? That's when the phone rang for the first time. I looked at the device and saw his name on the screen. Darnell, my son. My heart raced, but anger was stronger. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. I wasn't ready to hear his voice. Not after that public humiliation. How could he have allowed this to happen? How could the boy I raised with so much love permit such cruelty against his own mother? 5 minutes later, it rang again. And again. And again. Each ring made my anxiety increase. Was he finally discovering what they had done to me? Was he desperately looking for me? Or was he calling to give me some pathetic explanation to justify the unjustifiable? I got up from the armchair and started walking around the house, trying to escape the insistent sound of the phone. Darnell? 7 missed calls. Darnell? 12 missed calls. Darnell? 18 missed calls. The cell phone wouldn't stop vibrating on the center table. Why now, Darnell? I murmured alone. Where were you when they put my photo on that door? Where was my son when I needed him? With each missed call, memories came like stabs. Darnell at 10 years old crying because the other boys at school made fun of his old backpack. I worked 2 weeks of overtime to buy him a new one. Darnell at 15 wanting to quit school because math was too difficult. I paid for private tutoring with teacher Miss Johnson, even though I earned so little. Darnell at 22, graduating and thanking me on stage. Everything I am, I owe to my warrior mother. Where was that gratitude today? Where was my warrior son when they let me be humiliated like that? The phone rang once more. Darnell? 25 missed calls. This time the screen showed he was also sending messages. Mom, please answer. Mom, where are you? Mom, I need to talk to you urgently. Mom, for God's sake, call me back. Each message was a drop in the ocean of my pain. Urgent. Now it was urgent to talk to me. When they publicly humiliated me. It wasn't urgent to defend me. When they put my photo like I was a criminal. It wasn't urgent to protect me. I went to the kitchen and made chamomile tea. The same kind we used to drink together when Darnell was sick or worried about some exam. My hands were shaking, holding the cup. Darnell, 30 missed calls. The house had never been so quiet. Only the tick-tock of the wall clock and the insistent vibrating of my cell phone. I imagined how the party must be going. Keisha, stunning in her white dress. Darnell elegant in his rented tuxedo. The guests toasting the couple's happiness. And I, the mother who sacrificed everything for that moment, was there alone, banished from my own family. The phone rang for the 35th time. Darnell. 35 missed calls. This time something in his persistence caught my attention. 35 calls weren't normal, not even for a serious discussion. There was something of desperation in that endless sequence of calls. My maternal instinct, which had never failed me in 27 years, started screaming that something was very, very wrong. Could it be possible that Darnell really didn't know about the photo? Could it be possible that he was looking for me because he discovered what they had done? Or was it just late guilt, trying to fix the irreparable? I held the phone in my hand, watching his name flash once more on the screen. My finger hesitated over the answer button. Part of me wanted to hear his voice, understand what was happening. Another part wanted him to feel in his skin what it was like to be ignored, rejected, humiliated. 35 calls. My son had never called so many times in a row in his entire life. Something was very, very wrong. The memories of raising him alone flooded back. All those nights when he had nightmares and I was the only one there to comfort him. All those times he came home from school upset and I was there to listen. All those moments when he needed me and I never failed him. But today, when I needed him most, where was he? Where was my son when strangers were laughing at my humiliation? Where was the boy who used to tell me I was his hero? On the 36th call, I couldn't resist anymore. My maternal heart was stronger than my wounded pride. I answered with a trembling voice and a racing heart, not knowing if I was about to hear an apology or another betrayal. Mom, thank God. Darnell's voice from the other side was desperate, broken. Mom, where are you? I've been looking for you for hours. Darnell, I'm at home, I managed to say with a voice weaker than I wanted. Mom, for God's sake, you need to come back here right now. It was Miss Johnson, Mom. It was Keisha's mother who did this. I didn't know anything. I swear to God I didn't know anything. Miss Johnson, the mother-in-law. I felt the world spinning around me. What are you saying, Darnell? My voice came out as a whisper. Mom, when I arrived at the church and saw that photo on the door, I almost had a heart attack. I thought you had decided not to come, that you had gotten sick, anything. When Keisha said you had left because you were embarrassed by the situation, I didn't understand anything. His voice was choked, and I could hear he was crying. In 27 years, I had only seen my son cry 3 times. When his father left, when our dog Mel died, and when he passed his college entrance exam. But from joy. Darnell, stop crying and explain to me properly what happened. I managed to speak even with the lump in my throat. Mom, the ceremony was horrible. I was devastated because you weren't there. Keisha said you had called, saying you weren't coming, because you had some family emergency. I didn't understand anything. I tried to call you several times during the ceremony, but your cell phone seemed to be off. My cell phone was never off. It was on silent, but never off, Darnell continued. After the ceremony, when we went to take pictures, I insisted on calling you again. That's when Keisha's cousin, Tyrone, came up to me and asked if I knew about the photo that was on the church door. What photo? I asked. He took me there and showed me. I heard Darnell sob on the other side of the line. Mom, when I saw your photo with those horrible words, I felt a rage I had never felt in my life. I screamed in the middle of the church, asking who had done that. Everyone fell silent, looking at each other. That's when Keisha's aunt, Auntie Cheryl, couldn't stand it and told everything. What did she tell you, Darnell? That Miss Johnson had arrived 2 hours before the ceremony, with the photo printed and the glue. That she told everyone you were a problematic mother-in-law and that you were going to ruin her daughter's wedding. That you were too possessive and didn't know your place. The anger I felt at that moment was different from anything I had ever experienced. 27 years of sacrifice, of double work, of giving up my own life to raise my son. And that woman called me problematic. And Keisha, Darnell? Where was your wife when her mother was doing this? The silence on the other side was too eloquent. Darnell, I asked you a question. Mom, Keisha knew. She knew and did nothing to stop it. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. The daughter-in-law I had tried to welcome, who I had received in my house dozens of times, who I treated like a daughter, knew they would publicly humiliate me, and didn't lift a finger to defend me. Actually, Mom, according to Auntie Cheryl, Keisha even helped choose which photo to use. She said it was just a joke and that you would understand. A joke, Darnell? My voice came out louder than I intended. Mom, when I found out all this, I completely lost it. I screamed at Miss Johnson in front of everyone. I said she had humiliated the most important woman in my life, the person who raised me alone, who worked twice to give me everything. I said that without you, I would be nothing, that you were the most honorable person I knew. For the first time since I had seen that cursed photo, I felt a little bit of pride returning to my chest. And then, son, Miss Johnson started making excuses, saying it was just to avoid conflicts, that you and Keisha didn't get along well, and that it would be better this way. Lies, Mom. You always treated my wife well, always respected our relationship. It was true, no matter how much Keisha's attitude sometimes bothered me. I was always polite. I always respected my son's decisions. Darnell? And now? Where are you calling me from? I'm on the street, Mom. I left the party. I said for everyone to hear that the woman who raised me was worth more than any party, any wedding, anything in this world. That whoever humiliated you, humiliated me too. And Keisha? Keisha? Keisha sided with her mother. Mom, she said I was exaggerating, that it was just a misunderstanding. When I shouted that it wasn't a misunderstanding, that it was pure evil, she said I had to choose my side. And you chose? I chose you, Mom. I will always choose you. The tears I had been holding for hours finally ran down my face. But this time, they weren't just tears of pain. They were tears of immense relief, knowing I hadn't lost my son, that the boy I raised with so much love still knew how to recognize who really loved him. Darnell's son. Where are you now? I'm getting in my car, Mom. I'm coming there. I need to apologize to you in person. I need to hug you and show you that you are the most important person in my life. I closed my eyes and smiled for the first time on that horrible day. Then come quickly, my son. Your mother is waiting for you. 15 minutes later, I heard the familiar sound of Darnell's car parking in front of the building. I ran to the window and saw him getting out of the vehicle, still wearing his wedding tuxedo, but with his tie undone and his shirt wrinkled. Even from far away, I could see he had been crying. I ran down the 3 flights of stairs. I didn't even wait for the elevator. When I opened the building door, Darnell was standing on the sidewalk with red eyes and an expression of pain that broke my heart. When our eyes met, he broke down crying like a child. Mom, forgive me. Forgive me for not defending you, for not preventing this. I'm a horrible son. You worked your whole life for me, and I let them humiliate you like this. He ran to me and hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. I hugged my son with all the strength I had. In that embrace, I felt that I hadn't lost him, that all the love and dedication I invested in that boy hadn't been in vain. Darnell, you didn't know anything, son. You didn't know and couldn't prevent it. But I should have suspected, Mom. I should have realized that Miss Johnson didn't like you. I should have protected my mother. We went up to the apartment and Darnell threw himself on the couch the same way he used to when he was a teenager and came home sad from school. I sat beside him as I always did and ran my hand through his hair, as I had done since he was little. Tell Mom what happened after you left the party. Darnell took a deep breath and began to tell. Mom, when I left the church screaming, half the guests came after me, wanting to know what was happening. I told them everything. I said my mother had been publicly humiliated, and that I wouldn't tolerate it. And then our family relatives were horrified. Auntie Denise started crying. Uncle Ray said he was leaving too. Several guests said it was pure evil, that you didn't deserve to go through this. I felt some relief, knowing our family had sided with me. But Keisha's family, Mom, they started saying I was being ungrateful, that I was exaggerating. Miss Johnson had the nerve to say she did it thinking of everyone's good, that it was better to avoid conflicts. And Keisha, Darnell lowered his head, and I saw disappointment stamped on his face. Mom, Keisha, she tried to calm me down. She said we would talk later, that it wasn't time to make a scene. When I insisted she take a position, say if she thought what they did to you was right, she remained silent. My heart tightened. Not for Keisha. I already expected that from her. But for the pain I saw in my son's eyes when he discovered the true character of the woman he had married. That's when I understood everything, Mom. That photo wasn't just Miss Johnson's idea. Keisha agreed, supported it, thought it was okay to humiliate my mother on the most important day of our lives. And what did you do? I looked into my wife's eyes, who had just married me an hour ago, and said, Keisha, this woman you humiliated today is the most important person in my life. She raised me alone, worked 2 jobs, gave up everything for me. If you can't respect my mother, you can't respect me either. I felt immense pride in my son at that moment. Keisha started crying, saying I was choosing you instead of her, that a married man should prioritize his wife. That's when I spoke the truth. Keisha, a real man protects the people he loves. My mother was always with me in difficult moments, in victories, in everything. Whoever humiliates her, humiliates me. Darnell stopped talking and looked directly into my eyes. Mom, I left there. I left my own wedding because I couldn't stay in the same environment as people capable of such evil against you. Darnell? But what about now, son? You got married today. Keisha is your wife. Mom, how can I live with someone who was capable of planning this humiliation against the woman who gave me life? How can I trust someone who smiled in my face, knowing she had just destroyed the most important day for both of us? I saw my 28-year-old adult son crying like a lost child. He had discovered on the worst possible day that the woman he chose to share his life with didn't have the same character as him. Son, you two need to talk. Maybe Keisha was afraid to contradict her mother. Maybe not, Mom. There's no maybe. A person who really loved me would never do this to you. Would never plan something like this, and still pretend she didn't know anything. Darnell got up and started walking around the living room, nervous. You know what made me most angry, Mom? When Auntie Cheryl told the details, I discovered they spent 2 weeks planning this. 2 weeks choosing the photo, thinking about the phrase, deciding how to humiliate you. And Keisha participated in everything, laughed at the situation, found it amusing. At that moment, I understood there was no turning back. My son had seen the true character of the woman he married, and couldn't pretend that hadn't happened. His phone started ringing insistently. Keisha. The screen read. Darnell looked at the phone, then at me, and simply turned off the call. Not now, Mom. Now I just want to be here with you. Like we used to when I was little, and the world outside hurt too much. Darnell, you can't run from this situation forever. You got married yesterday, have an apartment together, a life built. Mom, how am I going to look into her eyes after what I discovered? How am I going to share a bed with someone who was capable of planning such evil against you? The phone started ringing again. This time it was Miss Johnson calling. Answer it, Darnell. Let's hear what she has to say. Darnell activated the speakerphone. Darnell, my son-in-law, you need to stop this nonsense. Come home to talk to me and Keisha. Miss Johnson, I'm no longer your son-in-law, and I have nothing to discuss with you. Darnell, You're being childish. It was just a little joke to break the ice. Your mother misunderstood. I felt the anger returning with everything. Little joke? Darnell shouted into the phone. Putting my mother's photo on the church door with "Presents not allowed" is a little joke? Darnell, your mother is very dramatic. Any normal mother-in-law would have laughed at the situation. Miss Johnson, my mother worked 2 jobs to raise me alone. She's the most honorable person I know. If you can't see that, the problem is yours. Darnell, you need to choose. Either you stay on your wife's side or on your mother's side. You can't sit on the fence. That's when my son spoke the words. I'll never forget. Miss Johnson, I've already chosen. I choose to stay on the side of whoever always stayed on my side. I choose to protect whoever always protected me. I choose to love whoever loved me unconditionally. And that person is my mother. The silence on the other side was icy. Darnell, if you leave home today, you don't need to come back. You can forget Keisha. You can forget our family. Perfect, Miss Johnson. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Darnell hung up the phone and looked at me with a serenity that surprised me. Mom, it's decided. I'm going to get my things from the apartment today. Can I stay here a few days until I get organized? Of course you can, Darnell. But are you sure? Don't you want to think about it a little more? Mom, I thought all night. I thought about how you raised me, about the values you taught me, about the example you always gave me. You always taught me to protect those I love, to be grateful to those who help me, to have character in all situations. Darnell got up and walked to the kitchen window, the same one where we spent hours talking when he was a teenager. Yesterday, I discovered I married someone who didn't learn these lessons. Someone capable of being cruel to an innocent person just to satisfy their own insecurity. And if she changes, son? If she learns? Mom, would you change? If someone humiliated Grandma Miss Loretta when she was alive, would you be capable of planning revenge like that? I thought about my mother, who died when Darnell was 15, but whom he loved deeply. Never, Darnell. Never. Then you understand why I can't continue married to someone like that. It's not just about what she did. It's about who she is inside. At that moment, I felt immense pride in the man my son had become. Despite all the pain and disappointment, he was making the right decision, based on solid principles. Mom, there's one more thing I need to tell you. What is it, son? Darnell came to me and held my face with both hands, like he used to when he was little, and wanted to make sure I was paying attention to him. Mom, thank you. Thank you for raising me with values. Thank you for teaching me what true love is. Thank you for working so hard to give me character. If today I can recognize right from wrong, it's because you taught me. The tears ran down my face, but this time they were tears of relief and gratitude. Darnell, I love you more than anything in this life. And I love you, Mom, forever. And I'll never again let anyone disrespect the woman who gave me everything. In that embrace, I understood I hadn't lost a son in his marriage. Actually, I had gained the certainty that I raised a real man, capable of protecting those he loves and making the right choices, even when they're difficult. 2 months had passed since that terrible Sunday. Darnell had moved back home temporarily and started the annulment process. The lawyer said that, considering only a few hours had passed between the ceremony and the separation, and there was fraud on the bride's family's part, the process would be relatively simple. During this period, our routine returned to something similar to when he lived with me. Darnell left early for work at the construction company where he was an engineer and came back in the late afternoon. We had dinner together, talked about our day, watched television. It was comforting to have my son back, but I knew that was temporary. Mom, I found a nice apartment near work. Can I show it to you tomorrow? Of course, son. It's time for you to have your own space again. The truth is that part of me didn't want him to leave. After almost losing our relationship because of that horrible situation, having him home again brought me a sense of security and completeness I hadn't felt in a long time. Mom, I want you to know that even living alone, our relationship has changed for the better. I learned to value even more everything you did for me. That Tuesday when I came back from work, I found Darnell in the living room with a strange expression on his face. Mom, I need to tell you something. My heart raced. What happened, son? Keisha showed up at my work today. I felt a chill in my stomach. Since that morning at my apartment, we hadn't heard from her or the family. What did she want? She's pregnant, Mom. The world seemed to stop around me. Pregnant? Keisha was pregnant with my son. Are you sure? She did the test. Yes, she brought all the exams. It's 6 weeks, Mom. The date coincides perfectly. Darnell sat beside me on the couch, head in his hands. Son, and now? What are you gonna do? Mom, I don't know. I'm completely lost. Part of me is happy because I always wanted to be a father. Another part is terrified because I don't want to have to deal with Keisha and her family for the rest of my life. I took a deep breath. That situation was getting more and more complicated. Darnell, what did she say? What does she want? She said she wants to try again. That the pregnancy changed everything. That she realized how much she loves me. That she wants to form a family with me. And you. What do you feel? Darnell got up and started walking around the living room, nervous. Mom, I want this baby. I want to be a present father. I want to give my child everything my father didn't give me. But I don't know if I can go back to Keisha after what happened. Son, you two don't need to get back together as a couple to raise this baby together. I know, Mom, but she made it clear it won't be easy. She said if I don't come back home, she'll make things difficult for me. I felt anger returning. Even pregnant, Keisha continued being manipulative. What kind of difficulties? She said she'll ask for high alimony, that she won't let me see the child whenever I want, that she'll tell our child I abandoned the family. Darnell, that's emotional blackmail. I know, Mom. But what if she follows through on the threats? What if I lose the chance to be a present father because of what happened between us? I looked at my son and saw the same insecure boy who used to come ask me for advice when he had problems at school. Darnell, sit here beside Mom. He sat, and I held his hands like I always did when we needed to make important decisions. Son, answer me something. Can you trust Keisha again? Darnell thought for a long moment before answering. No, Mom, I can't. Every time I look at her, I remember that Sunday. I remember the photo on the church door. I remember how she laughed at the situation. I remember how she lied to me. Then you have your answer, Darnell. You can't build a family with someone you don't trust. But what about the baby, Mom? What if she really makes things difficult? Darnell, my son. Children need parents who respect each other, even if they don't live together. Children don't need parents who hate each other living under the same roof. Darnell looked at me with those lost little boy eyes. Mom, how did you do it? How did you manage to raise me alone after my father left? I did it because I loved you more than anything in the world. Darnell, I did it because I knew you deserved the best I could offer, even if alone. Do you think I can be a good father being separated from my child's mother? Darnell, you're going to be a wonderful father because you have a good heart and solid character. That doesn't depend on whether you're married or not. That night, Darnell made his decision. He called Keisha and said he would assume all responsibilities with the baby, that he would pay fair alimony, that he wanted to be present in the child's life, but that he wouldn't go back to her. Keisha, I'm going to be the best father I can for our child, but I can't pretend I'm your husband after everything that happened. I heard her crying on the other side of the line, begging for another chance, promising she would be different. Keisha, you had your chance. You had 2 weeks to decide not to humiliate my mother. You had our wedding day to position yourself on my side. You had the chance to tell me the truth. You chose evil every time. And our child, Darnell. You want him to grow up without a father? Our child will have a father. Keisha, he'll have a present, loving father who will teach values and character. He just won't have parents living in the same house. When Darnell hung up, he hugged me tight. Mom, I made the right choice. You did, my son. You made the right choice for you, for the baby, and for Keisha, too. No one deserves to live in a marriage without love and trust. That night, for the first time in months, Darnell slept peacefully. 10 months had passed since that terrible Sunday. Darnell had successfully obtained the annulment, was living alone in a nice apartment near his work, and had shared custody of his son Malik, who was now 3 months old. My first grandson. Despite all the problems between Darnell and Keisha, they managed to establish a civilized routine because of the baby. Darnell would pick up Malik every Wednesday and alternate weekends. And to my surprise and joy, Keisha allowed me to see my grandson regularly. I think motherhood softened her heart a bit. Or maybe she realized that having a grandmother who loved her child was actually a blessing, not a threat. Mom, I brought Malik to spend the afternoon with you, Darnell said, entering the house with the baby in his arms that Saturday. Malik had 3 months and was the most beautiful thing in the world. He had big dark eyes like his father, but a sweet smile that reminded me of Darnell when he was a baby. Come to Grandma, my love. I took Malik in my arms and he smiled in that way that melted my heart completely. In that moment, I understood that all the pain we went through had brought us something precious. This little angel who would grow up knowing he was loved unconditionally. Mom, I have news to tell you. I felt a small stab of anxiety. After everything we had been through, any new woman in Darnell's life made me worried. Tell Mom. I met someone. Darnell took out his cell phone and showed me a photo. Her name is Jasmine. She's a teacher at the school where I take Malik for baby activities. Jasmine was a beautiful woman with a sweet appearance and sincere smile. She looked like someone you could trust, someone genuine. She knows our story, Mom. I told her everything about the wedding, about what happened to you, about my separation. And you know what she said? What did she say? She said that any man who protects his mother the way I protected you is exactly the type of man she would like to get to know better. I felt a wave of relief. Finally, someone who valued my son's character. Darnell, when am I going to meet this Jasmine? Actually, Mom, she wants to meet you. She said it doesn't make sense to get involved with a man without knowing his family, especially the mother he loved so much. 2 weeks later, Jasmine came to have dinner at home. From the first moment, I realized she was different from Keisha. Jasmine was genuine, warm, interested in hearing stories about Darnell's childhood. She helped me in the kitchen, complimented the food, and most importantly, she talked about Darnell with such genuine affection that it was impossible not to like her. Mrs. Monique, Darnell told me you raised him alone. That must have been very difficult. It was, dear, but it was also the greatest joy of my life. I can see the result. He's an incredible man. I've never met someone so dedicated to family, so loyal. When he told me what happened at his wedding, how he defended you, I knew I was dealing with someone special. During dinner, I watched Jasmine interact with Malik. She was natural, caring, didn't try to replace Keisha, but clearly loved that baby. Darnell looked at her with eyes I had never seen before. Not the passionate infatuation he had for Keisha, but something deeper, more mature, more genuine. 4 months later, Darnell asked Jasmine to marry him. But this time, he did things differently. Mom, before asking Jasmine, I want your blessing. I learned that the family of the person we love says a lot about who they are. You have my blessing, son. Jasmine is wonderful. And Mom, I want you to be more than just a guest at this wedding. I want you to be my best woman, like I asked years ago. Will you accept? I cried like a baby. Of course I will, my son. The wedding was planned carefully, with Jasmine including me in every decision. We chose the same St. Joseph's Church where I had been humiliated. But this time, everything would be different. On the wedding day, I woke up excited instead of anxious. I wore a beautiful lilac dress that Jasmine had helped me choose. When I arrived at the church, instead of finding my photo on the door, I found a beautiful sign. Welcome to the wedding of Darnell and Jasmine, with special thanks to the families who taught us to love. I entered the church on Darnell's arm as his best woman. The same church where I had been rejected now welcomed me with honor. Jasmine had reserved the entire first row for me and our family. During the ceremony, Darnell looked at me several times and smiled as if to say, "We made it, Mom." In his speech, Darnell said, "My mother taught me that true family is the one that chooses to stay, love, and protect in difficult times." Jasmine understood this from the first day. I'm not just marrying the woman I love. I'm gaining a daughter who loves my mother as much as I do. Jasmine added, "Monique, thank you for raising the man of my dreams. Thank you for teaching him values that made me fall in love with him. You will always be the most important woman in his life, and I wouldn't want it any other way." After the ceremony, we took photos in the same place where my photo had been placed months before. But this time, I was surrounded by love, respect, and genuine happiness. That night, as I looked at the photos of the day, I understood something important. Sometimes the worst situations in our lives serve to show us who people really are. The humiliation I suffered was terrible, but it revealed the true character of everyone involved. Keisha and Miss Johnson showed they were capable of cruelty. Darnell showed he was a man of character. And Jasmine showed she was the right woman for my son. Today, a year later, Darnell and Jasmine are expecting their first child together. Malik calls Jasmine Mommy Jasmine, and me, Grandma Monique. Keisha has matured and we maintain a cordial relationship for Malik's sake. And me? I learned that sometimes we need to go through the storm to find the rainbow. The pain of that Sunday at the church was real, but it led us to this: a stronger family, a son who knows the value of loyalty, a daughter-in-law who respects me, and a grandson who will grow up surrounded by love. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead us to the greatest blessings. As I always say, God doesn't make mistakes. He just has a different timing than ours.